How to Defend Yourself, or The 5 Principles of Self-Defense. Let's do it. Why is this important? I'll watch True Time. What's True Time? I have no idea. True Time. True Crime. I'm going to take a sip of water. Connor, how am I doing so far?
You're doing great, Bobby.
Hell yeah, dude.
True Time sounds like a cable show, like a cable network. It's like Hallmark.
True Time. Okay. This is just for you and me, Connor. I was thinking of, you know how I break these up into little sections?
Yeah.
I was thinking of just releasing those on YouTube and Spotify, right? And then maybe for my Patreon listeners, I don't have a Patreon yet, but I was thinking of getting one.
You should. 100%.
And if I get a Patreon, maybe that could be, I'm like, listen, you could, and then I could just give them this full video, like the moment it's available.
Yeah. We have some people who release their stuff days before.
Okay.
And that's one of the values that they add to their Patreon. So I think that's a great idea.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. I'm going to give this How to Defend Yourself line a second try. How to Defend Yourself, the 5 Principles of Self-Defense. Let's talk about it. Why is this important? You know, I watch a lot of True Time. Oh, dude, I'm a fucking idiot.
That wasn't on purpose, was it?
No, it wasn't. Oh my God. You know, it's interesting with like my job. I think I'm just like burnt out after I do it, but that's just the nature of my job is that I just have to do it in the morning. So I do these recordings in the late afternoon, early evening, but I am a little shot, you know?
I get that. Sometimes by the end of the day, I cannot communicate with another human.
Yeah. And I'm not even communicating with another human. I'm communicating with myself, dude, but it's hard enough. All right. How to Defend Yourself, take 3. How to Defend Yourself, or the 5 Principles of Self-Defense. Now, why is this important? I watch a lot of crime documentaries, right? And it's almost a trope of true crime, which is something awful or a series of awful things will happen in a small town. And the narrator or one of the people that lived in that town will say it was the kind of place where people didn't lock their doors. And I'm from a small town, 3,000 people in upstate New York. My family and I always locked our doors. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I think people don't want to live in a world, or they don't want to feel like they live in a world where violence can happen to them. Which, I mean, to me makes as much sense as not wearing a seatbelt, because you don't want to live in a world where a car accident could happen to you. I hope it doesn't, but is being less prepared something that's going to make you feel better? I think it's like a supreme form of denial. That being said, you know, if you listen to folks like Steven Pinker, we live in the most peaceful time in human history, right? War is down. There's less war than there ever has been, and you wouldn't know that by watching the news. The important caveat is we're better at making deadly weapons than we've ever been, but violence in the Western world is just not something that happens to the average person, which is a very good thing. However, it is still rational to prepare for low probability events. Think of it this way. You have a smoke alarm, right? How likely is it for your house to catch on fire? The probability is pretty slim, right? But why not regularly change the batteries in your smoke alarm? What are you losing aside from the money from the batteries and the time it takes you to put the batteries in? What are you losing from using a smoke alarm? So I think there's 5 principles of self-defense. Now, what do I know, right? I'm a guy. I have no formal training in self-defense. I do have a black belt in Taekwondo that I received when I was 9 years old. So I think that means I could beat up any 9-year-old. I'm almost positive. 10-year-olds, that's another question. But I like everything else, I've done a lot of reading on the subject, and 2 books in particular is how I came to the conclusions I'm going to share with you. One is Gavin de Becker. He is a self-defense expert, and he does private security for some of the richest people in the United States. He won't disclose who his clients are, but the understanding in Hollywood is if you're big enough, you're going to get de Becker on retainer, right? So he wrote this book called The Gift of Fear. And the central point is that fear is a gift, and you should, under most circumstances, trust your intuition, because your intuition comes from millions of years of evolution that has led to your existence, right? And the other book is Rory Miller. He is a corrections officer, I believe in Oregon or Oregon. I know that's a point of contention. It's pronunciation, and a defense expert and an expert on violence. And he wrote a book called Facing Violence. So those are what I'm basing these principles on. Let's get to the principles. But before we do that, we got to talk about the types of violence, right? So the first type of violence, this is something Miller talks about in his book, is called the monkey dance. It's a strange name for a really common phenomenon. And monkey dance is interesting. It's like many forms of violence in that most of the perpetrators are men, but it's unlike most forms of violence in that most of the victims are men, right? So the monkey dance goes something like this. And this is cliche, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about once I describe it. 2 guys are at a bar. One guy says, "What are you looking at?" The other guy says, "Nothing much." The other guy says, "What is that supposed to mean?" And then the other guy says, "Nothing, asshole." And then the first guy pushes his chest, and the second guy takes a big swooping punch, and then the dumb bar fight is underway. Now, this is the most avoidable form of violence, and we'll talk about avoidance later. But basically, it's a dominance game between 2 men, usually, where the roles are pretty established, right? You could argue it's a human version of 2 deer pushing their antlers on each other. If you ever watch a video of this on YouTube, it's 2 deer, and it looks like they're just bashing their heads together using their antlers, and they are. And the winner of that contest gets to mate with all the does. Doe, a deer, a female deer, right? So that is the monkey dance. The second type of violence are resource predators. It's pretty self-explanatory. The person is a predator because he wants your resource. The most common example is a mugging, right? If someone tries to take your wallet from you from force, that's a resource predator. And it's a pretty simple one to respond to, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the next type of violence is process predators. Now, these are the really nasty people. They like violence, or they do violence rather, because they like violence. These are your murderers, your rapists, people that want to assault you because they enjoy it, right? And it leads me to talking about something that I think is counterintuitive. Miller and de Becker talk about this. It's the idea of a second location, or what police call a secondary crime scene, right? And that's when someone kidnaps you or brings you to another place. Now, this could be as intricate as bringing you to another country or just bringing you into an alleyway. You never allow yourself to be taken somewhere else, because if you're taken to a more secluded location, the predator he's going to kill you regardless. But if he knows there's no witnesses, he's going to take his time doing it. And I am saying he in most of the examples, because the perpetrators of violence more often than not are men. So let's talk about the principles. The first one of 5, is avoid, right? Now, this is probably the easiest one. Don't go where you know violence will take place. And some of these are easy, right? I mean, you're not going to walk through Central Park at 2 a.m. And while I'm talking about avoidance, I should clarify, a lot of this will sound like victim blaming. It isn't, right? If you're a victim of a crime, the first thing that is to be done is that the person that did it is to be brought to justice, right? Full stop. The person that commits the crime is responsible for the crime, right? But that shouldn't keep us from analyzing what is a good and bad situation for us to be put in, right? I'm guilty of this myself. I've walked home from comedy shows at 2 a.m. when I could have easily taken an Uber, right? We know when violence happens. It happens in certain neighborhoods, right? Especially if you're unfamiliar with the political dynamics of those neighborhoods, right? It happens at night, and it happens, and Rory writes about this in his book, where drunken men gather, right? Gonna continue to be a little politically incorrect here. Men are more violent, drunk people are more violent, young people are more violent. You add all those three things together in a bar, in a dive bar, it's a recipe for disaster, right? And avoidance, you could avoid the monkey dance easily, right? And that is if someone tries to pull you into that game, right? That what are you looking at? You don't have to participate. If you're a man, every fiber of your being is going to tell you to, at the very least, make a face-saving, snarky comment. Don't do it. Don't participate. It's the easiest form of violence to avoid. A resource predator, sometimes it's hard to avoid. I mean, like I said, you could not be present at particularly dangerous times of the night in dangerous neighborhoods, but sometimes it's unavoidable. The same thing goes for the process predator, which leads me to my next principle, which is run, right? So we got avoid, we got run. So how does it work for the monkey dance? Easy, albeit it would look insane, but it will work from a self-defense perspective. If you're at a bar and some guy says, "What are you looking at?" he will not chase you if you immediately turn and run away, or at least walk away. He might laugh with his friends. He might consider himself to have won, but neither one of you are going to end up in the emergency room or jail, right, for doing that. Resource predator, this is counterintuitive, but it's simple. If someone wants your wallet, right, you're walking down the street, someone pulls out a knife, it says, "Give me your wallet." You drop your wallet and run. They have the resource. It's on the ground. And if they're going to shoot you or stab you for running away, they were going to shoot you or stab you anyway, right? At least you'll be further away. Process predator, same thing. Walk or run away. So avoid, run, and the next principle is hide. Now, this to me is the least likely, right? I think there might be a scenario, maybe a mass shooting situation. That's particular to my American audience. I'm American, so I'm allowed to say that. But yeah, hiding. If you've tried running and it's not working, hiding is always an option. All right. Avoid, run, hide. The fourth principle of self-defense, de-escalate. This one is not always possible. But, for example, in the monkey dance, what are you looking at? A de-escalation could be pretending you don't know it's a call for altercation, right? What are you looking at? "Oh, I'm sorry. I was staring into space. What's up with you?" You know, as long as you're not participating, and again, you always have that run and hide option. Now, for a resource predator, no de-escalating is necessary, right? Again, you dropped your wallet. The process predator, I believe no de-escalating is possible, unfortunately. You're dealing with the most dangerous predator, so not everything works. So these are the first four principles before we get to the main one. But I do want to add something, because I think sometimes people are confused when they see police interactions with suspects on the internet. Something I'll hear a lot is why are they being so rough on him, right? Or why are there so many cops on one guy? And this is because by nature of someone being in law enforcement, they do not have the avoid, run, or hide options. Literally, their only options are de-escalate and the final principle, which is fight, right? So by nature of you watching a video on the internet and they're going hands-on with a suspect, de-escalation has failed. Now they're doing their version of fight. And the care they have to take to not hurt somebody is much higher than the care for us. All we have to do is defend ourselves. They have to bring this person into custody safe and sound. Another thing that's counterintuitive, and I just mentioned this, is a sense of proportionality, right? So why would 5 officers need to arrest one suspect, right? Shouldn't it be one officer arresting one suspect? But someone being put into cuffs and being put in the back of a cruiser is not something that should be a fair fight, right? You want that person to be taken into custody as safe as possible. And how is that done safely? Well, if you have 4 people together, each one can grab one limb. That's the safest way to do that. Just my opinion, and a quick little aside. I just wanted to add that. But that leads me to my last principle of self-defense, which is fight. Now, the fight itself is beyond the scope of this video. Luckily, I have only experienced the monkey dance portion of violence, and that was when I was a drinking man, right? I haven't experienced other forms of violence, so understand that. But what I will say, I won't describe the fight itself, but if you followed the 4 preceding principles, which is avoid, run, hide, de-escalate, then by nature, if you have to go hands-on with someone, aka fighting, that is self-defense, right? Mutual combat is not self-defense. But if you follow the 4 principles, you tried not to be there, you tried to run, you tried to hide, you tried to de-escalate, and it didn't work, then what you're doing is self-defense. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so take that with a grain of salt, right? I've never been a lawyer. I don't have a law degree. I was a paralegal, which was terrible. Don't do it. But safe to say, follow those 4 principles. You going hands-on. You're not fighting. And this is what I think confuses people. They conflate self-defense with mutual combat, aka a fight, right? They're 2 different things. So most young men have participated in mutual combat, aka the monkey dance, in their high school or maybe even their college years, right? That is, you can't say to a police officer or a judge that you were defending yourself because the guy called you an asshole. That's not self-defense. You have to prove that that was your only option. And from then, it's a true self-defense situation. So you're not under any obligation to, quote, fight fair. You have to do the damage necessary for you to safely remove yourself from that situation. And that, I'm trying to think how to phrase this so I don't get age restricted on YouTube. It involves the eyes and or genitals, folks. Okay? Do with that what you will. Oh, but again, only for self-defense. And if you're interested in more about this topic, it's a contentious topic. If you disagree, please leave a comment describing what you disagree with below. I'm interested to read your comments, and definitely read both of those books, Facing Violence and The Gift of Fear. Thanks for watching, and stay safe. You especially want to stay safe if you're an American like me. Otherwise, you'll have to do the most terrifying thing an American can do, which is go to the doctor.